Hi, my name is Nick Falconer, and one of the biggest tragedies I see happening to thousands of diabetes sufferers is the loss of eyesight, nerve damage, kidney disease, and the needless weight around the tummy that people just like you with diabetes go through. Not to mention the 4 million people that die every year, and particularly with complications such as cardiovascular disease and stroke. The tragedy is not just the fact that they die of diabetes, but the fact that they die of ignorance. You see, people don't realise that type 2 diabetes can be reversed, and I am living proof of that fact. Also, most mothers are not aware that many children with type 1 diabetes are managing without insulin and have normal pancreas function. But it didn't come easy. I was diagnosed 15 years ago, and my life turned upside down the day the doctor told me that I was going on insulin. Not so much the steps I needed to take to heal were hard, but finding the right information was a huge struggle. By 2005, I had developed kidney problems. I was told I was on the point of having laser eye surgery. I was losing feeling in my feet and having a job to walk upstairs, and generally beginning to feel very rough. Does this sound familiar to you? Perhaps you're facing the same kind of things.
When diabetes is not well managed, it's associated with serious complications, including heart disease, stroke, blindness, kidney disease, nerve damage and amputations, leading to disability and premature death. By the time they're diagnosed, half of the people with type 2 diabetes show signs of complications. Cardiovascular disease is a major cause of death and disability in people with diabetes, accounting for 44% of fatalities in people with type 1 and 52% in people with type 2. Adults with diabetes have heart disease death rates about 2 to 4 times higher than adults without diabetes. The risk for stroke is 2 to 4 times higher among people with diabetes. People with diabetes are 10 to 20 times more likely to go blind than people without. Diabetes is the leading cause of blindness in people of working age in the UK. It's estimated there are 4,200 people in England who are blind due to diabetic retinopathy. This increases by 1,280 people each year. Almost 1 in 3 people with type 2 diabetes develops overt kidney disease. Diabetes is the single most common cause of end-stage renal disease. Kidney disease accounts for 21% of deaths in type 1 diabetes and 11% of deaths in type 2. Diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure, accounting for 44% of new cases in 2005. Neuropathies or nerve damage may affect up to 50% of patients with diabetes. About 60 to 70% of people with diabetes have mild to severe forms of nervous system damage. Diabetes is the most common cause of lower limb amputations. 100 people a week lose a toe, foot or lower limb due to diabetes. The rate of leg amputations in people with diabetes is over 15 times higher than in people without. Astonishingly, up to 70% of people die within 5 years of having an amputation as a result of diabetes. The prevalence of depression is approximately twice as high in people with diabetes as it is in the general population. A study in men over 40 in Q8 found that about a third of men newly diagnosed with diabetes had erectile dysfunction. Babies of women with diabetes are 5 times as likely to be stillborn, 3 times as likely to die in their first months of life, twice as likely to have a major congenital abnormality. My eyesight had deteriorated, and loss of feeling in my feet and simple things like getting up the stairs was proving difficult. In essence, I was feeling rough, and at just 45. Then came the lightning bolt, the wake-up call, and I really got it loud and clear. My endocrinologist told me that I was going on insulin. I said, when? And she said, now. I was terrified, but also angry and frustrated. How could this be happening to me? And at just 45 years of age. I remembered all the warnings about amputations, kidney failure, cardiovascular disease. I thought I was looking at the last 5 years of my life in reasonable health. It seemed impossible I could get past 50 without at least one major complication. My son was 18 at the time I was prescribed insulin and was already thinking about finding a lovely wife and making his future. A future that I thought I could never be part of. That was devastating. Have you ever seriously considered the prospect of not being around to see your grandchildren grow, not being able to help guide them and help them? Well, I did that day. I felt strongly that this was the time to take back the responsibility for my diabetes from my doctors. They talked about illness, complications and death. I felt it was time to be positive. So I started to research, and I mean research. I read and sifted through everything I could find on the internet, much like you are now. There was much rubbish out there as well as wacky ideas that you Americans call out there. Eventually, I found a small book which claimed to have the answer and would get me to reverse my diabetes. The more I read, the more I investigated. I thought there is something here. It was a bit like a signpost, this book. It showed me other places to go. So I bought books on the internet, I read, and the writings by eminent people who have a combined research of over 100 years in this field. It encouraged me to look into the areas that would yield what I craved, a way to reverse the damage done and rebuild my life. The more I tried, the more I tested. I tested diet. I tested lifestyle changes. I tested exercise, different foods. I recorded everything. I would test several times a day. I used to get up in the night and do some testing. I even varied my medication and recorded the drop in medication. I was slowly developing a program, and it was working. This is a graph of my sugar levels over a period of about 5 weeks. As you can see, there's the average sugar levels dropping from around about 12 down to just above 7. My HbA1c figures were even more dramatic than that. This graph shows my metformin reduction, starting at 2,000 milligrams, and over an even shorter period of time, you can see I managed to drop it down to 0. As I create this video for you now, I'm 50. Yesterday, in fact. I've never been in better health. I even weigh less than I did at the age of 17. Yes, that's right. I've lost pounds and pounds of weight as a positive side effect of learning to control my sugar levels.
What on earth can achieve all this success? Most people are completely unaware of the 6 basic lifestyle changes to reversing their diabetes. It starts with diet change, but there is so much more, and the results are amazing. Worldwide, thousands of people have discovered that this new approach to diabetes management is reducing their medication and reversing the impacts of their diabetes. Please take a look at the accounts by type 2 sufferer Lynn Bailey and also the amazing story of Gabriel from Sally Roman. On this Tuesday at 9 p.m. UK time, I'm going to be hosting a webinar which is going to tell you what those 6 key steps are and the simple ways you can take to immediately end the suffering from your type 2 diabetes. It is free, but places are limited. You will learn much more about the 6 keys to success. I'm giving this vital insider information as I've been there and I know what it's like when you're worried about losing your eyesight and going blind. If you're watching this video, you may already have this process. Or you're worried about the enormous amount of weight that goes with diabetes. You may already be feeling uncomfortable about your figure. I remember how I used to feel when I went out in public and I noticed people were looking at my belly and I would cringe inside knowing how judgmental and cruel people can be, really cruel towards people who are overweight, especially when they know it's not even your fault. But most of all, I know what it feels like to have corrected my eyesight, lost weight, get back to a healthy lifestyle, free from insulin injections and free from the debilitating fear that used to cripple my daily life. Please join us for the most exciting and optimistic diabetes webinar you will ever experience. It will point you in the right direction, provide answers and positive ideas for you to reverse your diabetes. I will be available to answer your questions, so put your best email into the box on the right-hand side of the screen and I'll send your registration details for the webinar.